don't think anybody predicted this. Michael McDowell is your 2021 Daytona 500 champion. And I know you are clicking on this video to hear one of my spicy opinions, and I certainly have a few. So, let's get into it. And welcome to the studio. Bathrobe video, and unfortunately, I'm going to have to throw this thing out for a while because who could have predicted Michael McDowell as the winner of this year's Daytona 500? I know I certainly didn't. I didn't even have him in kind of my top 10 of drivers that I thought was going to win this race. Any shenanigans, I think, unless, of course, I did see there was a tweet on Twitter that said something about the Love's car winning on Valentine's Day. I don't know. Is that tinfoil hat worthy? I don't know. So I do want to be positive to start this video because I probably will get a little bit negative by the end of it. But just kind of a meta thought here before we kind of get into the race itself is that I don't know about you guys, but I felt this whole speed week felt very normal. And in a year, last 365 days that have felt so abnormal, the fact that we have the Daytona 500 happening at the same time in very similar circumstances. Sure, it wasn't a full capacity crowd like it usually is, but there was a crowd there. The race happened as it was scheduled, outside of a rain delay, of course. Hashtag noon. By the way, that's a good segue because I almost forgot to put it in the video. If you don't like your Daytona 500s ending at 1 in the morning and you don't like seeing me in a bathrobe, get this. Oh, I'm pointing the wrong direction. Get this noon shirt. You can see how late it is because you can get this noon shirt at Race 92. We are selling those like hotcakes, by the way. Those are flying off the virtual shelves. But yeah, back to kind of my sappy meta thing, which is I think things felt normal. And I hope they continue to feel that way because it was comforting. It was comforting to have the Daytona 500 in that sense. And I also want to be positive about the winner, Michael McDowell. Now, I will have a few criticisms later in this video, but I don't want to. I think some people are going to completely discredit Michael McDowell, and I don't want to do that. I think a lot of people realize that not only Michael McDowell, but really Front Row Racing have had a very good plate, or I guess we'll call it Super Speedway now because there's technically not plates now, has had a very good program for a very long time. And this particular race would be one that if you were looking at that team and saying, well, what races can they win? This would be one of them. And Michael McDowell certainly has been at the front in previous races, and he put himself in position in this race. You know, he was involved in an accident early, fought his way back from that, and put himself into position to win the Daytona 500. And he did. So I really don't want to take that away from him in the sense of he did it, he accomplished it. This race actually went 500 miles, which I just realized for the first time in how many years without an overtime. So that's good. I mean, you can't, I suppose you can't get any more legitimate than that. Well, you can, but that is definitely an interesting, he's an interesting winner. No doubt about it. And I do want to add a little bit of something that you probably won't get anywhere else. Michael McDowell raced in Champ Car. 2 races. And the driver he replaced at the Rocket Sports team in 2005 was Ryan Hunter-Reay. Yes, the 2014 Indianapolis 500 champion and the 2012 IndyCar Series champion. And McDowell replaced Hunter-Reay in the last 2 races of the season. And Rocket Sports got a best finish of 11th at Surfers Paradise. So not much to write home about, but it was also a yellow and red car, which is kind of interesting. And, of course, the team owner, Paul Gentilozzi, got in a little bit of trouble with Ryan Hunter-Reay because he didn't pay Ryan Hunter-Reay for those last 2 races and ended up in a lawsuit. Anyway, I'm talking about stuff that you don't want to hear about. So, the race. This is what you want to hear about, isn't it? I have to admit, I'm not like upset about it. I don't think upset is the right word, but I do have a bad taste in my mouth at the end of this race. And I think it's a lot of different factors. I think it's the crash at the end. I think it's the winner. And I think it's the style of racing. I think there's some feeling of the best car driver combination didn't win this race. And in my mind, didn't really have a chance to win this race, at least at the end. I'm going to repeat some things that I've kind of talked about, and I feel like I've just been talking about these same things since 2018, but we're going to go ahead and talk about some of them. I'll try not to go into too much detail if you've been here for the last 4 years. But again, we get a wreck to win the Daytona 500. You have to wreck somebody to win the Daytona 500, and I don't know, it's a bit tiresome, isn't it? Especially when the wrecks are as bad, especially this one. I mean, thankfully, unlike last year, we didn't send anybody to the hospital. But and again, I'll say this, and people are going to get mad at me, and there's going to be people who are sticking their head in the sand and being like, well, they're not going to be nobody's ever going to get hurt or killed since Dale Earnhardt. Like, yeah, they've got an incredible safety record going right now, but this is professional auto racing. This is 200-mile-an-hour racing, and those catch fence poles, if you hit them wrong, still can cause massive, massive damage. And NASCAR dodged a bullet here. Again, third, fourth year in a row? Again, it's less bad than last year, I suppose, but it does put a bad taste in my mouth. Again, not only because of the violence of the accident, which, God almighty, the fireball just kind of reminded me a lot of almost like the 1964 Indianapolis 500, in which Eddie Sachs and Dave McDonald got killed, or when Ronnie Peterson died in Monza in 1978. Just these big fireball crashes, that's horrible to look at. It looked like there were flames in the cockpit of a few different cars. If you look at it, Austin Cindric's car and possibly Brad Keselowski's car, it's just a ugly situation. And then the fact that, again, I don't want to take too much away from McDowell, because I think he's a little more deserving than I think people, again, are going to give him credit for. But at the same time, it's the Austin Dillon 2018 thing again, isn't it? It's where a driver who maybe was like third place material wins because he crashes the two cars that were possibly going to race for the win otherwise. And so, yeah, that hurts a little bit. And I do have to say, and again, I'm going to defend Michael McDowell, but I'm not going to deny that I definitely think in terms of Daytona 500 winners, he definitely falls on the Derek Cope and Trevor Baynes side of things much more than the Denny Hamlin or Richard Petty side of things. And I think history will see him that way. He's in the playoffs too. That's another thing that's just... Maybe you try the Indy 500. Go for both of them, Michael. That'd be cool. You're in the playoffs anyway, whatever. Yeah, it wasn't Denny, too. And it's not like I think Denny should have absolutely 100% deserved the race win. But I didn't feel like he really had a shot at the end to win it. And I think the fact that he had such a dominant car, the fact that he really wasn't challenged in the sense of it wasn't necessarily a heads-up race with Denny involved at the end, that was disappointing. The fact that Chase or Austin Dillon, who finished second and third, would have probably been, I don't want to say more deserving winners, but it just would have felt more appropriate. I don't know. Am I talking crap here? Just let me know down in the comments, because it's just, I'm kind of putting this together in my brain right now, kind of mulling it over. Because a lot of people are saying that this is like the worst Daytona 500 ever. I certainly don't think it's worse than 2013, which I personally consider to be the worst Daytona 500. Was it the best Daytona? Hell no. Oh, God, no. I think the big crash on lap 15 really set this race back significantly, because you lost a lot of competitive cars. But at the same time, it wasn't like passing was impossible. and that's the other thing that maybe is leaving a bad taste in my mouth. It's like, why didn't Austin Dillon pull out 3 laps before the end of the race? Because you know that if he had pulled out, Chase Elliott would have gone with him, Kyle Larson would have gone with him, probably Denny Hamlin would have gone with him. In fact, he said it in his post-race interview, would have gone. Maybe Michael McDowell would have pulled down there. I was surprised they didn't make a move. And again, I guess you can't fault the drivers for making their own strategy calls in a race, but quite frankly, you look at the result, especially with the big crash, it's like, what did you expect? What did you expect to happen? I mean, again, it just seems like that's... And I guess if they had made a move, we would have just got that crash, and it would have been 2 laps earlier, and then we would have had to do an overtime, and the process would have repeated itself until either we got a winner or we got another driver headed to the hospital. Yeah, I mean, I'm not like upset about this. I want to really give off that vibe, because I have been upset by some of these finishes in the past. 2018, 2020 in particular, I was just like, oh God, just, this one, it's almost like I'm like accepting like kind of what the Daytona 500 is. And I guess it's disappointing because you like watch the documentary during the rain delay coverage and you go, oh, hey, that's cool. It's so cool that Mario Andretti, was able to drive up and lead the race, and he had the best engine, and he trimmed his car out, and, he drove the car super loose. And it's just like, I wish there was a way to get the race to be like that again. I know it probably never happened. I mean, that's the thing too, isn't it? It's just like, when Denny Hamlin in his post-race show says we executed too well, it's just like I feel like a team and a driver that executes shouldn't be punished. They should at least be in there with a shot at the end of it, and Denny wasn't. I don't know, man. It's weird. It's weird to talk about this race because it seems like everything that leads up to the Daytona 500 kind of feels like you're hyping up a big event. But then you get to the big event and it's a wreck fest, and there's, especially this year, there wasn't a whole lot of action in the middle. There was definitely some compelling stuff, no doubt about it. I think it was fun to watch Bubba Wallace just drive like an absolute maniac. That was exciting. I thought the drive of Austin Cindric was very interesting. I thought Kyle Larson had a very good car, by the way. I thought he was going to factor in at the end. Chase Elliott was working back and forth through the pack. Kyle Busch. There's a lot of interesting things in this race. There were some interesting strategy calls, but it's just like, at the end of the day, there's not a lot of moments you look at, and maybe some of it's Fox too, which some of the commercial breaks were just I don't know if how much control they have over that, but they got to reel that in because some of the Fox coverage was just subpar. Hopefully things will be much more normal next year, and I'll be able to be at the race at the Daytona 500 next year, and hopefully that will help my perception of what's going on, because if TV is really painting a bad picture, but I don't know if it is. I think in a lot of ways it's a race that just turns out to be a couple of big wrecks, mostly nothing happening, and then somebody gets wrecked at the end of the race, and there's a controversial finish, and everybody talks about it, and then you kind of go, oh, 10 years from now, it'll be a trivia question that Michael McDowell won the Daytona 500, and it won't be anything like super legendary, I don't think. It'll be legendary in the sense that it's a trivia question, kind of like Trevor Bayne kind of turned into. It's like, oh, hey, oh, shucks, remember when Trevor Bayne won the Daytona 500? Or, oh, shucks, remember when Derek Cope won the Daytona 500? Oh, what we get to look forward to is Michael McDowell coming back in about 25 years, and he's going to be running his last NASCAR race, and then he'll get a flat tire. Maybe on lap 2 for Brad. We'll have Michael get spun on the back straightaway. I don't know. I'm tired. I stayed up all night to watch Michael McDowell win the Daytona 500. What are we doing? I don't know. Let me know what you think of this race down in the comments section below. Got a lot more content coming throughout the coming year. Man, I got noon to trend on Twitter today. That was wild. Noon. Yeah, so this onwards and upwards for the channel. I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm excited to continue covering races, both in my gaming chair and in person. And hopefully you guys, if you made it this far, are along for the ride. If you're not, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.